This week on the podcast, it's time for the big cost of gaming chat, what the future looks like and what it means for gamers across the globe. We also catch up on the games we've been playing whilst infected, and we kick off the journey in 100 games as we name the best Nintendo Switch game. All this and more on the Pixel Parents podcast. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Pixel Parents podcast, the show that discusses all things gaming from the perspective of parents. I am your host, Liam Cook-Kelvin, and today I am, of course, joined by Scott, the tastemaker, the bearded one. Curry, how are we, Scott?
Double named.
What's that?
My Christian name. I'm very well, having recovered from, infections and, been feeling like a meat puppet by Nintendo in the last few days. So, it's nice, piecing together. You kind of feel a wee bit like Columbo over the last few days, piecing together news, trying to figure out what the hell everything's going to cost and how much we're going to have to sell our souls to buy these consoles. But I'm glad to say that we're past that point and, we're ready to move on. But I'm enjoying the new weather. I mean, in Scotland, any nice weather is new weather. So
2 weeks of summer.
Nice to actually, it's been nice to get a washout, and really nothing else to report. It's a sad state of affairs that 33 years old and the highlights of my week will be getting washing out outside to dry. Because see when you do it, see when you look outside and you see that washing drying out there.
What a new man.
Nothing better. There is nothing better.
Honestly, listen, I'm not going to knock it. You can smell and feel the difference, so I'd be lying if I was to say it doesn't matter.
It's so true. You do feel the difference.
You do.
And smell the difference.
It's like it's irritated. I can't really describe it. I don't know. It's It's listen. I've been facing my mortality this week. You'll appreciate this. I think I'm going far-sighted as well. So I've had to.
You can't see things
close up. Am I right in saying
close up?
Yeah. So
I'm both.
So it's I've noticed that when things are a certain close proximity to my face, I'm like seeing double and it's all bloody. And I was at my dad's and he pulls out this box of reading glasses, just loads of them. I'm like, okay, I tried one on and I was like, Jesus, it was like seeing things in high definition for the first time. So I think I'll be making a wee trip to the optician soon. So more on that.
That's one of my favourite things to do. I love getting my eyes tested.
It's just a social call.
Strange. It's a pure strange feeling. I love getting it done. I love all the daft wee machines and stuff and the way they change the lenses and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, number 1 and number 2. It's just like, let's do it.
I know. Well, I have the added benefit that my brother-in-law is my optician as well, so I could go and chat all things with him. Football usually.
We love to hear it.
He's a magician. But yeah, like you, as you can hear, I've been ill just constantly. I'm convinced that they're trying to kill me. Convinced. Like they keep bringing germs in. Well, just once, could you bring in just like a sack of money or a kebab or something like things that I would actually like? No, it's just.
If your child brought in a random kebab, would you eat it?
Where'd you get that for? Here, let me see that. No, that's not for you. Just we have to get a room. Just sitting there scanning it. Cabbage and all. It's been a week, but like I said, before we get into things, we also did a special bonus episode this week for all you lovely listeners. If you haven't heard it yet, just go on your podcast app such as Spotify and you'll see it there. It was a special Pixel Reacts, just breaking down everything from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which happened yesterday, which Scott, you of course mentioned. And yeah, that theme just keeps on going into the main topic today. A lot to talk about. Scott.
A hell of a lot to talk about.
Indeed. So I suppose we better get some housekeeping out the road. So for those listening, this is the Pixel Parents podcast, a weekly podcast by parents who game. For those who do the same, where each week we discuss all things gaming whilst raising little ones. Now, if you want to be part of the podcast, come say hello and share your thoughts with us at pixelparents.bsky.social on Blue Sky, or write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. If you like what you hear and you want to support the show, you can leave a 5-star review, and please do share this podcast online with your friends. That really helps us out. And of course, thank you to everybody that joins us each and every week. So with that out the way, Scott, what have you been playing this week?
This week has been a pretty transformative week for me, to be honest with you. I spent a lot of time wanting to play games, but not wanting to get into anything too, intense, because having to deal with it's so stupid. These fucking video things, it's so ridiculous. For obviously audio listeners, we're doing this on Discord, and every single time Liam puts his thumbs up, it's like fireworks and stuff go off in the background, and it's the most ridiculous thing ever. So yeah, I didn't want to get into anything too intense. So because the wee one was unwell and having to deal with cleaning the house 100 times a day, and protecting the world from chicken pox. But I kind of thought, you know what, now is the time, and I think it's now. I've now clicked with it again that Grand Theft Auto 5, after we had our big chat about it and stuff, and remembering what my promise to our lovely listeners was, that I'm finally going to get through and platinum all of the possible Grand Theft Auto games except for 4. Then that's the plan now. So I'm about 3 or 4 missions away from finishing the story. But now I'm just working through the checklist of things. So I've found all the submarine parts. I've cleared all the nuclear waste. I'm currently just flying around Los Santos looking for spaceship parts. There's one that's on a bridge that I had spent far too long trying to get with a parachute and using a helicopter and stuff, and it is a fucking nightmare. So what I ended up just doing was like fiddling about with it, finding like the biggest truck that you can find and jumping on this bridge, and it worked. But finding all these spaceship parts and basically just working my way through clearing these lists of things to do. The one thing I hate, and I hate it now, and I think I'll hate it, when I get to playing Red Dead Redemption, is that why have Rockstar suddenly become interested in giving us like gold and silver and bronze medals for completing missions on time?
Yeah,
like completing them quick.
Yeah.
It bothers me. Like, why not just let me enjoy the mission and enjoy the world? Like,
just eats away at you, doesn't it?
It takes the piss, because one of the trophies that you get is like complete 70 missions on at least gold, and it's like, so now I'm going to have to go through this mission list all over again and look for all the parameters that it wants. Fortunately, after you finish the mission, it basically tells you what you did or didn't do, so like it's easy to follow. But that's not the point. It's not the point, Liam. It's just the fact that you have to go through it is annoying as fuck.
Damn it.
It's the principle. But I tell you something, I have spent, and it follows the same path that I took with San Andreas, that I've fallen in love with the country music stations all over again.
It's fabulous, though. That's the only way to describe it. It's fabulous.
So stupid. Like listening to the Highwaymen and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm living in this world and I'm loving it. Like, it's great. I'm kind of gearing myself up for finishing the main game and then moving on to the online trophies, because there's a handful of online trophies on there. But
brave, man.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. I think that a lot of them will be done already. Like, I think that because I've imported my character from the PS4, that it will all be already basically complete. But there's a few on there that I think I still need to do. However, it's just been nice going back through the game again. And I think I said this on a previous podcast, that I hated Trevor with a fucking passion. Like, he was such a pain in the arse. I felt like it was just a pure caricature of Grand Theft Auto. But that's what it's all about. Like, that's the point of him. And see, as you go through it, as I've gone through it, I'm like, he's actually probably my favourite character in that game now, because he's so full of personality. Like, I enjoy the story of Michael, and like the way that it takes you through the highs and lows of family life and criminal life and blah blah blah. Franklin is kind of along for the ride in that in that way, and that kind of makes sense because he gets kind of swept up in all of it. But Trevor has this weird story, and it's quite it's quite emotional in terms of what actually happens to him. Like, I think that you do just get lost in the fact that he's fucking nuts, but there's reason for it, and the reason why he's become this way, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. Like, I don't think this podcast is going to tell you any more than you need to know about Grand Theft Auto 5 because it's one of those games that you have to play. I think, but it's just been great going back to it and finding love for it again because I was really getting annoyed with playing it when I was playing it a few weeks back when it was like I just cannot be arsed. But now I'm finding myself when I turn it off at night, I'm like, oh, I could just go back on and play it for another hour or so.
It's so Moorish and it's just such a great world to inhabit, and hopefully we roll into a GTA 6 this year, but I don't really.
I mean, we definitely are. If they're saying that Silksong's still going to come in 2025, then believers are still out there. The only other thing that I was going to mention is just that I've still been working through on Onimusha 3 and stuff as well. Just because the wee one was unwell, like I was at home with her off work, and I literally just sat. She fell asleep on the couch maybe like 3 or 4 times this week, and I just sat on my laptop and just played Onimusha. It was great. Like just being able to do it, yeah. And you'd think that I would maybe have pulled the Switch out and started playing that, but for some reason, no. I think I'm going to try and find something on the Switch to take with me because we're going on holiday next week. So we're away next week for a bit. So we'll kind of work it out from there. But I actually just remembered to tell you that I'm away next week as well. So you need to work around that in terms of recording. I think I'm back.
The magic of editing, all will be fine.
Yeah, I think I'm back at some point. But it's been a sort of regular old week. But finding my love for Grand Theft Auto 5 again has really taken me through and brought me through the week because it's nice to have something that you want to play. And Assassin's Creed Shadows, I have 2 copies of that game.
You have 2 copies of Assassin's Creed Shadows?
I have 2 copies of Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Do tell.
So I found a deal online for it and I bought it. And then I was like, I've actually got like £25 PlayStation vouchers on my PlayStation. So why don't I just buy it on the PlayStation, which means I've got the digital version of it. And then I can just play it now. And this was before I started playing Grand Theft Auto again. So I bought the copy online and then I bought the digital copy as well, but I cancelled the copy for online and it arrived at the door.
But please
so I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Please say you didn't get charged.
I don't know. I've not checked yet, but if I have, then it will be getting refunded. If I haven't been charged for it, then someone is free to it on the show. We'll do a wee giveaway potentially, but don't write that in stone because I'm not going to promise anything.
So it could be a generously, mistakenly provided giveaway.
Pretty much, yeah.
From the retailer we won't name, but no, that's excellent news and a lovely segue I would add as well. Have you started it yet?
Nope. Haven't even turned the game on.
What a treat. You're doing the right thing, continuing the vibe of GTA 5. Because as with any big kind of action RPG like that, if it's not going to grab you from the offset, you need to dedicate, you need to kind of purposely get through like the opening, just kind of learn the rules of the world, even though it's not a very difficult one to learn. I've been still making my way through that this week. Loving it. I think it's just been, I'm playing it and I'm still constantly like, how does this look this good? Genuinely like one of the best games ever played and on the PlayStation 5 Pro, man. And the game's just opening up. Like, I think once I started to realise that I can't play this like Valhalla, I can't play it like Mirage or Origins or Odyssey. I really like the stealth in it, and it feels like the enemy AI are just a little less stupid in the sense that, I mean, I could go through entire camps and just like waltz through it. And I can still do it now, but I feel like I have to engage with what's happening around me a little bit more. And that's just because of little tweaks like they've got rid of the eagle, so you can't just basically just do a drone camera scan. You still can through Eagle Sense, but you have to get pretty close for it to work. And I'm not sure if there's any upgrades which will open that up. The fact that you can go prone, you can use shadows to stealth in. There's long grass you could go prone into, and just really, the game's inviting you to actually be like, no, really infiltrate this. And even if shit does hit the fan, the finishers and the animations that they've done, man, when you're getting in battles, it's just all so satisfying. But the only criticism I would have of it is that It does, but it also doesn't really feel like an Assassin's Creed game in that sense. Every now and then I get like a little wink of the score and stuff like that, and I'm like, right, okay, I'm back, but it still feels like more of that feudal Japan like RPG, not like a Ghost of Tsushima. It feels like its own thing, which is still a compliment to it. Ghost of Tsushima was very much focused on the cinematography and all that. This, not so much. It is like you're living and breathing in this world, and but it's good. It's class. Like I'm just having a great time with it. But I'm really, because I've not been well this week myself, and as you can hear, I'm still going through like round 2 of Allergy, which I'm delighted about. And then there's sickness bugs and all the rest of that going through the house. The joys of parenting, eh? And me, I'm just like, I just still don't really want to touch these games so much. So I've just been kind of playing it in dribs and drabs. And there's been a big reason for that. It's because in the last week, I've also invested in one of the final pieces of my gaming setup here, Scott, which is I've purchased a new monitor for oneself. So I've went and I've sprung for an Alienware OLED 32-inch curved monitor, and man, it's good. Oh god, it's good. It's given me that extra option, and it's came in handy, especially nights like this evening where we'll be recording, editing. I've got the Xbox currently hooked up to it. I was playing Avowed on it, just kind of going through stuff and just being in that close proximity. Like, wow, I had the PlayStation 5 Pro hooked up to it. And just been doing that thing like you do, just going through all these different games to see what it looks like. And yeah, it's like 240 hertz and all that. It's fantastic. And it's kind of completed everything off here of what I've been going for, that work, rest, and play vibe. So the big issue for me now is just, where do I prefer to play? So I was playing Assassin's Creed for a few nights in here, and I thought I'll go back to the telly because I was feeling a wee bit under the weather, coughing and spluttering. I needed to be in the couch, blanket over you, that type of stuff, and just making my way through it, which is great because it is that comfort food game for me. And I don't know, like, it is definitely going to be one that I'll platinum, but I'm realising now we're starting to enter a real groove for Xbox Game Pass, and it is frightening. We've got Atomfall sitting there on the Xbox, which I've not had the pleasure of touching yet. Really looking forward to starting it. And then we've got South of Midnight, which I thought was later in the month. Is it coming out
it's like next week?
Next
or was
week?
it like not a couple of days? Something like that? I don't know. It's very soon though.
I know at the time of recording, the premium edition's available, isn't it?
I know that they put up a post today explaining when it was coming and stuff, but I can't remember when it was, which is terrible as hosts because I should remember. But it's one that, I think the reviews all dropped today as well, so I think that's probably why we've seen it. But
yeah, pretty decent actually. I think it's in the 80s on Metacritic.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Really excited. It's 3rd of April apparently, or the initial release date is today for the premium edition. So we're recording that. It's actually out on the 8th of April, so it's next week. So next Wednesday, which is the same day. Same day Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders go live as well. So you can play that while you're fighting online.
We all know that the Switch 2 will stay in stock then because everyone will be playing South of Midnight.
That's for damn sure. But yeah, I think you've got that.
The biggest drink on earth there.
Has to be done, man. Got to look after them pipes. But you've got like South of Midnight, you've got Doom as well, quickly followed up with that. And then before we know it, we're in Summer Game Fest, and I'd expect another Xbox big developer showcase where they kind of show off the next 6 months of Xbox, where you'd imagine
like
Call of Duty.
You've got South of Midnight, Doom, Clair Obscur and stuff as well at the end of April.
That's the other one, yeah. Good grief, yeah. What a jam-packed month. It's making
ridiculous.
It is making me rethink my strategy for Assassin's Creed, because ideally I would just sit there and just play that, but I know I'm going to get pulled away. So my aim is to finish the main story, and then I've kind of got that Assassin's Creed Platinum run to return to, because admittedly, what I tend to do is burn myself out on it, and I'll play it intensively for like 3 months, get the Platinum, and 3 months is quick for me, and then I move on. But I think if I do the story and see how I do, because I'm really keen to play Clair Obscur, I want to make sure that kind of we're part of that conversation when it comes out, because it's a big Xbox Game Pass get. So
they've also got, Grand Theft Auto 5 coming to Game Pass as well.
The enhanced edition
on April 15th. On April 15th. Then you got Blueprints coming as well on it at some point. It's like Game Pass is the way to go, and especially considering the topic of conversation for this podcast,
Oh, yes.
it's absolutely 100% a consideration to be thinking about. But when is Doom?
Doom's in May. Doom the Dark Ages is coming in May. I
It's
don't have the
gonna
exact
be
date.
May.
It's indeed, mate.
13th of May.
13th of May. Good grief. This could all work out nicely because, as I said last week, I'm going to be taking on a new job opportunity very soon, and I've finally finalised all that. So, and then I've found out that I've got like 6 days of holiday to take, which I might take at the end of said notice period. So I've got that wee week just to kind of refresh, which will be after Doom comes out.
Just to batter through Assassin's Creed and every other game in your library before everything else comes out.
I will become sweaty metal that week, my friends. Just sitting playing Doom in the hot baking May sun. That's what I'll do. And I've got it all planned out, but it never works out. Usually, always when I'm going from one to another.
I was going to say
on the Friday, starting the Monday. I'm like, fair enough, because I thought you could just get paid for it, but I'm like, the tax man will take it, and
yes,
they get enough, bastards. But before we move on to the main topic, Scott, we did actually get some reader mail, or listener mail, should I say, and from Adam Colonels Miller once again. And it's just really just to check in with him. And I just want to say to him, thank you for writing in. Of course, it's always fantastic to hear from him. That he's on the Elden Ring charge just now. And yeah, it's, as he's mentioned, it's basically a job itself. And I'm like, yes, we've been there, mate. As someone who's completed that game multiple times, both separately and together, we know how you're feeling. I'd be really intrigued to hear like what your favourite boss battle is just now. What the favourite moments are specifically, just so we get an idea where you're up to. And I won't.
And the build. That's what I want to know.
Yes, what weapons are you using? What are you kind of focusing on?
What's the name of his character?
Yes. So what was yours again?
That tells me a lot. Wart the Glutton.
Big
fat guy.
Mine's just Bilbo Dragons. Then I followed that up with Dolly Farton for a second.
Dolly Farton, of
Build
course.
for Shadow.
Who could forget?
Well, she ended up being way more hench than Bilbo Dragons as well, so fair enough. I was proud of that character. He got me through it 5 times. But yeah, he was also mentioned that he's bought Call of Duty for the first time, which I've noticed on PSN. I had them on PSN and noticed that he's been playing a wee bit of that, and he's been loving Black Ops 6, which I'm very, very pleased to hear, because I'm it's such a good game, man. Like,
yeah,
I know they've added like Verdansk back to Warzone and stuff, but Black Ops 6 just as a multiplayer package, man, it's so much fun. So much fun. You can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. So it's pleased to hear. And you'll be delighted to hear this, Scott. That he's also bought several games and a PlayStation Portal over the last few months. We got him.
We've done it. Influenced hard.
Oh, it's the best decision you've made, honestly. Like getting a Portal.
I mean, it's the best decision that you've made, but also for your partner and things as well, I'm sure.
Well, exactly. That's the whole point. Yeah, it's a total like parent station at the end of the day. I think it's It did say if we do get the grift up and running, he's buggered. So we've got to influence carefully here.
We've got one.
Yeah, exactly. But we want to thank you for your very kind words on there, Colonels. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, love the fact that you're tuning in and joining us each and every week. And don't work too hard, wherever you are. But we hope that we're giving you some company as you're listening to our dulcet tones each and every week. But yeah, we should move on to the main topic now. So, as I mentioned earlier, we had a special yesterday out about the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. And if you're paying attention to anything online, and that doesn't have to be within the games media sphere, it's also like BBC News and all that are turning up. They're wheeling themselves out to be like, oh, new console, let's talk about it. And then you might have also noticed that there's a big sweet potato grifter on the other side of the pond that just seems to have chucked a spanner in the works yesterday and just raising the price of everything just for the sake of it, including an island off of Australia that's just inhabited by penguins. Guy's a fucking lunatic. But anyway, all this is basically coming into our main topic today, which is...
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I zoned out for a second there and I heard sweet potato in an island inhabited by penguins.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
came back at that moment, and it all made sense. So
It
yeah.
did. Yes, this is our lives, people. This is our lives. This is 2025. But yeah,
Fucking hell.
it is time, Scott, for the big cost of gaming chat. You know, and it's something we've not touched on this for a while, but it feels like there's been a few tectonic plates that have shifted in the last few days. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch 2 launch and the pricing has really kicked off this huge discussion around game prices in general, and I think it's really people are starting to hit home. We touched on it yesterday on the Pixel React special, but we thought, you know what, we did have something else planned for this week, but it feels like this is apt to talk about it now because there's a lot to talk around this. So first off, in terms of the game prices, I'm just going to go right off the bat and just ask you to kick us off here. Are we entering a middle class era for gaming in terms of prices in general?
I just asked me a nice, easy question.
Why not?
I honestly don't even know anymore. Like, I really don't. And that's not just off the back of, the Nintendo stuff yesterday, because there's so much disparity from one thing to another to another to another. It's just, wading through piles of horse shit and trying to figure out which one isn't, which one's chocolate. It's just impossible. Like, it's hard to kind of figure it out. I think that inevitably the prices are going to rise anyway. And, I think that's just natural considering the way things are at the moment, right? I would hate to think that video games are going to become, a middle class commodity and that we're going to price people out of gaming, but it's hard to see any evidence that suggests otherwise. Like, it really is. I think that looking at the job that I do and looking at, if people are trying to claim for benefits and financial support and stuff, at the moment, things are dire enough as it is. Like, video game consoles and games alone, they're going to become last thing that people are going to want to have to buy. Eggs are 15 quid in America, £55 in America. I'm just reading the live stock price of eggs in America, so it's just impossible. But I think I don't think we're entering a middle class era yet, but I think that there is there are raindrops on the windshield of the car that we're driving that are telling us, it's coming. Like the rain is coming and it's gonna hit us hard soon, I think.
Yeah, and I think I actually think that we might already be here, and it's not this isn't knee jerk. It's just more. It's a question really around. Right, it's April now, so prices of stuff has gone up, and that has an impact on how many products such as video games that you have left, money left to buy at the end of the month. So if you factor in things like council tax has gone up, the energy increases, the price cap with Ofgem has gone up, and it's expected to continue this year. General inflation around groceries, and you look at that with a stagnant wage increases collectively over the last 10, 15 years, they haven't really kept up with that. Now, some statistics would say that on average, private sector and that would go up about 5-6%, which is outstripping inflation. I would call bullshit on it because we all know it's basically every time your wage goes up, it feels like everything else goes up alongside with it.
Yeah.
And that's a variable, hence why the class factor comes into it, because obviously those with the higher end of potential will always be able to go and purchase what they want. But in terms of working class and people that maybe aren't on the upper tax brackets, shall we say, it feels like it's getting further and further out of reach just because the bare necessities around day-to-day living is going up. So I don't think it's really more of a question around the price of games, but because now we're starting to see that creep come in, the question is really there. And I remember at the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X launch, when the games went from $59.99 to $69.99, and it was oh damn. And then you have had things like the PlayStation 5 Pro, and granted, the Nintendo Switch 2 itself isn't particularly the most expensive console we've ever seen, It's the impact of what we're seeing in comparison with the tariff impact over in the US and what that's going to have that impact globally. Now, this is where I think it's probably good to understand the context around it. So if we look here in the UK, it's 39599 for a Nintendo Switch 2 or 42999 with the Mario Kart bundle. So you're actually saving money getting the bundle, but that's still a big chunk of change, almost £5,000. So
Yeah.
that really isn't the headline grabber for me. It's more the discussion around the actual price of the games. Now we know in the US they're going to be paying about $499 for the bundle, so it's about 70, I don't know,
$70-ish.
$70. I was going to say units.
If it's $429, if it's $429, it's $499, then it's $70.
Yeah, and that's obviously before the tariffs. If you look at the tariffs now, a lot of these Nintendo consoles will be manufactured in Vietnam. There's like a 40% tariff that's been whacked on them randomly. Fuck knows where he's pulled that from. Probably his arse, as it does with everything else. And that's expected that to have an impact even more on top of this. Now, I know the answer for a lot of the Republican supporters over the pond would be, we're doing this because we want for people to manufacture stuff in the US and to buy US goods, which, take the politics out of it. I can understand that and I can appreciate it. But it's stupid when you're looking at it in the context of 4 years. So it might mean that we just, as gamers, products and all these other things start to generally inflate over the next 4 years, and then you've just opened the door for another president to come in and take it all away, and then maybe in 4 years' time the cost of stuff comes down. But it's like petrol prices. What goes up never comes down.
It's Nintendo games though. The console might come down, but the games will still be fucking 90 quid.
Exactly, and we're getting close. Now. They announced their pricing for the games. Now, this is the thread I really want to pull on here at the start of this. So you got Donkey Kong Bonanza, which will be $66.99 physical or $58.99 digital. So and Mario Kart World will be $75.99 physical or $66.99 digital. So what's your general thoughts on that pricing?
It's disgusting. I don't care how good Nintendo are or how good Mario Kart World is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way on earth that a game should be that much.
Yeah.
And I know we're saying, well, that's just the way that things have gone, and for the last however many years, games have remained at a stagnant rate, and that's fine, right? That's cool, but to see that jump from what Switch games are at the moment, I mean, how much would it be to buy Mario Kart 8 at the moment? Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on what? On normal sort of thingy site, right? So if I get that here now, $59.99 still, right? Yeah. Or so it's just like, to buy the download, $49.99. So it's like, it's just ridiculous. So that game is never going to drop in price ever. You can't even say buy it pre-owned because pre-owned doesn't exist anymore. And if we're pushing people towards this digital future, that it seems like if you're looking at it from a purely financial point of view, they're obviously saying that digital is their way forward now.
Yeah,
because everything's cheaper digitally. So
yeah, I think they really are. They're really trying to incentivize it there, aren't they?
This is what seems kind of the future seems to be, and we spoke about it on one of our fucking very early episodes. We were talking about the future of video games and the future of physical video games, and I think we said there's a future there, but this kind of seems to be like completely contradicting it, and that's the scary part, is that you do not own these games. Like it's frightening.
I mean, the thing that gets me with it, right, looking at it, is I totally agree. $75.99 for any game, I'm like, you're taking the piss. Like even if Grand Theft Auto 6 was announced, and we'll come to that later, I would still be like that. Hold on there, son. But the fact is, they were so close to doing the right thing here, because as you've noticed, the digital price being just under what you'd pay now with like Donkey Kong, it's actually £1 less than what it would cost for a first party Switch title. So it's $58.99 as opposed to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is $59.99. Mario Kart World, they've just built, they could have been the good guy. It's like, we'll make it $58.99, but they're now starting to overinflate whilst reducing the price of the other. So it's almost like bamboozling you to be like, well, I'll get that because Donkey Kong is cheaper, or whilst I've got it, I might as well just get Mario Kart World for $66.99, which is £7 more than what they really should be asking for that game, to be frank. And it feels like they're taking advantage of this situation, if I'm being brutally honest.
It's like, when was the last time that it feels like from their own show that they knew that this wasn't going to go down well? Like, I know it's shown to a million different countries around the world. That's fair enough. So covering every single price point around the world is impossible. But they knew that this was going to cause us a fucking ton of shite. Like, we had to scramble through Blue Sky to try and find out prices and scramble through the internet just to try and find the price of the actual console itself.
Yeah.
And listening to podcasters literally trying to piece it together live on air, trying to figure out what's actually happening, and that's ridiculous. I think if that was anyone else, if that was Xbox or PlayStation, we'd be having a fucking very different conversation about the professionalism and stuff like that. Like, Nintendo are getting an easy ride on this because it's Nintendo and we laugh it off. Oh, it's just Nintendo things. But listen, this is a fucking company that's been about for how many years now? Fucking over 100 years. Like, they know how to do this. And I'm less angry about the price of the Switch, because I think that if you look at it on the basis of how much a Switch OLED costs at the moment, it's not far off what you're going to be paying for this console. And I think that's fine. But it's the console doesn't bother me. It's the price of the games that totally fuck it. Like, it's just like, who is paying this for this? Like, first day one, who you're getting Mario Kart cheaper by buying it in a bundle, which is great. But if I bought your son a Switch for Christmas, right? Or you bought your son a Switch for Christmas, he said, look, he wants Mario Kart for his Christmas. I'd be like, no, get yourself a fuck.
You can get it for there. You can get it for there.
I love him, but I don't love him £80 worth. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's the hard line, and you're bang on, because you've got families out there that will be facing that choice now, and it's not even that. It's like, yes, maybe that's why they're doing this kind of game share feature. I'm looking at it. Do you know the thing that really pisses me off about it, if I'm going to be frank? Where is it now? Where's that soapbox? Hold on. There we go. Get the soapbox right. But it's the fact that I think what they're trying to do is to give parity where it's impossible, because they're anticipating the impact of the tariffs. And honestly, at this point, I'm thinking it might be time, from a geopolitical standpoint, for them to turn their back on the US. Because I'm like, I don't feel, why should all these consumers around the world who have absolutely no say in what this maniac is doing, and then you've got Nintendo, who are not being good players in this either. They've manipulated this situation, overpriced their games, and they're going to hide behind this tariff excuse, and everybody loses. That's the thing. There is no winners in this. Not the US, not even Donald Trump, not Nintendo. And what you're going to find is that people will vote with their wallet. They will. Yeah. And you're going to find that the attach rate on this will be lower when you compare it to the Switch attach rate, because you're going to have to be more discerning. And it will impact, it has a wider impact on it, basically. Donkey Kong Bonanza, that ain't getting a Bonanza 2. Metroid Prime 4, which looks like it's a total dream game for myself, but it's like, you might be in a situation where you have to choose one or t'other, as opposed to the other price, and it's like, well, I could actually get both. And it's just not fair. Really not fair on the consumers. Lose out on this, and I think we're at the point now, just not just within video games, but across the board, where I feel like we all have to just be like, we need a better class of economic decision making and politicians, whether it's across the pond, here or elsewhere. You've got that sweet potato maniac doing whatever the fuck he wants, and that brainwash cult behind him just saying this is fantastic. This guy's purple because he said so. Here in the UK, you've got my old man came in today and he was talking to me about Keir Starmer, and he talked about the tariffs. My dad loves all this. I really surprisingly don't give two shits about it, but I'm like, what's he going to do? He is like weak piss of a politician. Like, if he was a piss stain, he would leave no stain and no smell. That's how weak he is. That's the only way I could describe him. I'm like, this is just going to be posturing, and ultimately we as consumers lose out. And this is why we're seeing this advantageous practice.
Yeah, you're saying we as consumers, but you kind of touched on it a wee bit a minute ago. But you're talking about, the wider impact that it's going to have. So we're looking at an industry now that is weaker than ever before.
Yeah.
And, the big thing here is that support the games that you love. It makes it harder to support games. Like, people have been asking for a fucking 3D Donkey Kong since Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah.
How many people are going to be quite happy to go and part with however much it's going to be? And like, if there was any other games out that month as well, if you've got 3D Monkey Kong, 3D Donkey Kong, or some other game coming out the month after, you might pick that. Do you know what I mean? But I think we're going to see a knock-on effect on what we're seeing. Publishers, and we're seeing developers and stuff get fucking thrown out of business left, right, and centre at the moment.
Right.
Shut down, lose their jobs. I see this affecting Nintendo more now than ever before. Like, it's frightening, the fact that you've got all this money coming in, but I just don't understand it. Like, this whole digital future and stuff as well is just, it hasn't sat well with me. I'd be interested to speak to people who work in that industry, like speaking to someone from the game collection, for example, and say, like, look, what are your thoughts on this? Like, how do you see the future of this looking and like affecting your business? Because the Switch was the lifeblood, and like for Nintendo, like, it sold 15 million trillion billion dillion copies. Do you know what I mean? And like consoles and stuff. So I
think you're right.
It just baffles me. It just completely fucking baffles me. Like, there is no point in my head where I'm like, this makes sense, because it doesn't.
It doesn't, and it's the fact that there is a tiered system to the pricing. So it means, like, Mario Odyssey comes out, Mario Odyssey 2, say that would be 76 quid, but if Metroid Prime 4, well, that'd be 67 quid. The Zelda, obviously that would be top tier, and then they'll maybe have another tier. And it's very confusing for consumers, because it's like, we've never been here before. We've almost, part of the deal, the social contract almost that we sign, is that there's an RRP that's standard. And I think they have said, retailers will be able to sell it. And we'll find a game collection, the rest will undercut that. They'll cut their cloth to make the sales, because what this is doing is de-incentivizing physical sales. And I think you're finally seeing the beginning of the final end for retail. I think Game were out today talking about it, how they were basically disappointed around it, but they can see why. I mean, they're already going to be
fucked anyway,
regardless. But it's so confusing, and what I'm finding alarming, and this might be the smoking gun, is that your Xbox, or not even that, but PlayStation, I mean, they must be going, hey lads, I think we could get away with a $79.99 game. We just do it for a laugh. Ghost of Yoti. Okay, we'll just say economic conditions. It's all there for them to do it. They did it with the PlayStation 5 price, don't forget. And Sony are as greedy bastards as they get on any of the game manufacturers. I mean, I did a wee bit of research for this one today. Basically, you look at the choices you've got as a gamer. Right? So say you've got a wee bit of folding, and it's like, right, you can get that Switch 2, which I think the console's fairly priced, but then you could also instead get the Steam Deck OLED, fully souped up, 1 terabyte and all that, for $569. Or you could pay $479.99 for a PS5, or you could go full booner, $699.99 for a Pro, or in between all that, for $429.99, the same price as that Mario Kart bundle, you can get an Xbox Series X. And it hit me there, because I'm like, fuck, Xbox actually does present the best overall value in the market for now. I think for our audience, for people like us.
Yeah, and that's not just the console. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's what you get with that.
Full package. And I'm like, I think they've seen this coming. And I do wonder, because right now, it's market demands now. PlayStation will raise their prices. Xbox will raise their prices for games to buy, but nobody really buys Xbox games now. They buy Game Pass.
Nah.
This will follow suit. It might even just be 75 quid, but you'll see it happen in you'll see it happen this year. I'm going to just put that out that you will see it happen this year, and they're going to give it the whole economic pressures push, when really it doesn't impact them at all. It's all made up bullshit anyway. Economy's big, scary, invisible monster shite. I'm very nihilistic on it all, Scott, in my old age. But I think if you look at it, Xbox, they've probably looked at it, it's like, this is a race to the bottom, effectively. That's what we're going to be doing, because you're right. People will vote with a wallet, and then they're not going to invest in these games that they've clamoured for. You start to see these developers go left, right, and centre. You'll see the blue sky things about, oh, this is terrible, support your developers, which we all want to do. But there needs to now be like, fuck, how do you make something that almost supports the consumer? Not that that's their job to do it, but it's like, how do we make this a realistic proposition from a value perspective? And I think Xbox, man, I think they're going to come out on top of all this in the next 4 years. Because if, put it this way, yes, PlayStation, they get away with it with the Pro. They get, mug punters like us that will go out and get it. But it's taken, 4-5 months for me to have a game on there that I feel like it's finally worth something, whereas Xbox is just sitting there like that. Do you know what? The next Xbox you don't even need. You don't really need it. The Series X still does 4K, 120 frames per second, does all that stuff, and you can get all these games on Game Pass because they'll still support it. And it really has blown me away at this point, because I'm like, if you are a parent gamer right now, the absolute best thing you can do, unless your child is absolutely like ganting to play Mario, the best value you can get is to go get that Xbox, go get a Series S or something. And it does make me raise the question, Scott, which I put to you. So in this landscape now, and as I've mentioned about Xbox, and there's been a point to my ramble, PlayStation put the prices up, Nintendo as well, and it's something I put on. Those that have listened to the Pixel Reacts will know where I'm going with this. Do we start to see a big push now into the subscription services, more so than we've ever seen before? Because that represents the real value, the great leveler for gamers, as opposed to give us your £75 for one game, or give us your £75 for a year's worth on the subscription model.
I think if it's the Xbox, I mean, they're doing it already. Do you know what I mean? Like that's their bread and butter. With PlayStation, the first steps are there, but I don't think they're smart enough, and I don't think they're savvy enough to go down the same route as the Xbox. Like I don't think we'd ever see a world where, Herman Hulse comes out next week and says, "Look, Ghost of Yotei is coming out in 2025." But it will also be launching on PlayStation Plus Premium. I don't think that's ever going to be a reality for PlayStation, because they see too much value in people paying for those games. And you said it, mug punters we are, because for some reason in my head I justify spending that for a Ghost of Yotei because it's a known quantity. Like, I understand and I know what I'm getting with that. I know what I'm getting with a Mario Kart, but it's a different thing with our new console, like with a change to that. But with PlayStation, I mean, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see something like that. But their PlayStation Plus decision sometimes, baffles you as well. Like some of the decisions that they make on that, they're still living in, Xbox Gold life. That same fucking place. But there's a future there, I think, with PlayStation, that they could take advantage of it, and especially with a handheld as well. Like, if you're looking at the Portal alone, having a great library of games on PlayStation Plus, new games on PlayStation Plus for people to play, excellent. No, that's fantastic. That's why you'd fucking buy the thing. But with Nintendo, you did touch on it, yesterday in our Pixel Reacts, and I don't want to kind of steal your thunder on it, but
I'll go for it.
I just don't see them ever doing it. I don't see it. I think that you'll maybe see parts of it on Nintendo Switch Online, and they'll maybe put through another expansion or something which impacts it. But I just don't ever see it happening. Like, they've got the tools there, because Nintendo Switch Online is there. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they've got the groundwork, but again, I just think Nintendo being Nintendoing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think
it's a sad state of affairs, but that's just what Nintendo are like.
I would have agreed with you before. Not that I disagree, but I would have more strongly been in line with you before the Switch 2 Direct, because I think for the first time they're showing signs of modernisation for Nintendo. I mean, that camera looks arse still, but they're still showing
But they've
signs.
also said that you can use other cameras as well.
Well, there we go. So there you go. But I mean, even the fact that it's the lack of the gimmick, it's the iterative approach. It's I hate using that. It's like the iPhone approach. It's like as if they invented the iterative models. It's that approach is making me think that the Nintendo are waking up to the changes in the market, the external environment, effectively. Come with me on a journey. I'm going to go on a ramble.
Oh, we're going.
If you look at it, right, what you've described there is all true. Like, I think that Nintendo will Nintendo, but the Nintendo Switch Online represents a very boutique item, which is dripping in nostalgia for old farts like us. Put that in front of the kids. I think the GameCube stuff will be good because obviously it's in a better fidelity. I know from experience, and this is just purely anecdotal, whenever I put on stuff for my son on Nintendo Switch Online, if it's anything like from the SNES collection, he's just not really too interested. I mean, bar the Mario stuff. But I look at it and I'm like, right, something's changing here. And the fact that they had the price within that presentation, as you said at the start of the show very rightly, they know this is going to go down like a lead balloon. And they're also, they're smart. I think they understand that who they are targeting at the end of the day is not, it's not the hardcore sweat. That's not who they're going for, even though it caters towards it in some way. But at the end of the day, they want to still take a toyetic approach to it. They want families, they want the living room, they want all that. The best way they could do that, and they have to either adapt or die, is to look at this subscription-based model, like a Game Pass-esque for Nintendo. Now, it won't be like Xbox Game Pass. It'll be like their own version of it. They might just start with the Switch catalogue. They might do something like that, but I can definitely see them changing that model up and dipping a toe. Even if it is something like Nintendo Switch Online Ultimate, or I don't know, fucking Princess Peach Edition, whatever they want to do, they'll Nintendo-fy it or something like that.
I see, yeah, right. I agree. However, this is a Nintendo who, to this day, we have a Game Boy collection, the Game Boy game collection on Nintendo Switch Online that have no Pokemon, red, blue, green, yellow, anything on that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if Nintendo were making smart decisions, they would have done this before already. Do you know what I mean? Would have, Zelda games remastered already. Like, these would all be done. They've had how many years was the life cycle of the Nintendo Switch for?
8 years.
8 years. So like they've had 8 years to do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are decisions that anyone in their right mind would have done day one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's always a case of where they've got that in their back pocket. Like, they've got Nintendo remasters or remakes in their back pocket, or they've got Pokemon remakes in their back pocket, and that's fair enough. But like 8 years, 8 bastard years for things that I want, it just makes no sense. And that's the thing with Nintendo, is that none of the decisions make sense ever. Like, ever.
It doesn't.
Like, who thought? Nobody, not one person in any of the things that I listened to or read or followed in the lead up to that presentation thought the C button for the Switch was a chat button.
No, they'll think it was like a cast button or something like that.
So it's just like Nintendo just come up with weird ways to make things more elaborate and daft than they need to be. And now they've got a weird camera. But I'd love to see it. I would love to see it, but again, I just don't see it happen. If they were to do it, a Nintendo Switch library of games, for a fact it'll be exactly like Nintendo Switch Online, where they'll drip feed, one good game and then every other shite fucking game in the background as well. Like, you'll have, for every Super Mario Odyssey, you're going to have, a Princess Peach Showtime. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to have 4 of those. Like, it's just, I just don't see it working.
As something, time will tell. I think it's really just when you factor in all the additional cost for upgrades and all the rest of that on top of it, could be anywhere between 10 to £20.
They're saying with the upgrade path is that if you've got Nintendo Switch Online, then some of the games you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I know that Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are upgraded automatically if you have the expansion pack.
Right, okay. That's pretty good.
So you don't actually need to pay for an upgrade for that.
It's so messy. You're right. If this was Sony doing this, we would absolutely drag them over the coals because it's all the fucking homework that needs required.
I swear to God, it's fucking Hercule Poirot. Like we're all fucking different detectives of yore, trying to piece together what the Switch is actually going to be like. Like it's just ridiculous.
What are you doing? Who's this for?
Also, I need to read out a joke. I need to read out a joke that someone said earlier on. Because I laughed. I've laughed about it all day on Blue Sky. It's a guy that I follow. He's one of the co-hosts of the Kojima Frequency podcast called Apache Smash. He's a Twitch streamer. If you're keen to follow him, like he's really good. He does like blindfolded runs of Metal Gear Solid games and stuff like that. But he's still so stupid. He says it was after the tariffs chat and like the impact that it's going to have on pensions and American pensions and stuff. And he said, "Why is everyone talking about Warhammer 401k all of a sudden?" And it fucking killed me. So stupid. It's so fucking funny.
It's true.
It is true, but it's just a sad state of affairs that we're off the back of some of the biggest news in video games, and the only thing we've got to talk about it is the game price and the price of things now.
It's the most. It is the most important factor, though. I would argue.
Yeah.
For real life people.
I mean, 100% correct. It's just that you're seeing all the footage come out about all these influencers and media and stuff like that going to play the console.
Yeah.
And I've just taken no interest in it because it has just been severed by everything else that's come out,
That's probably twofold as well, because you're not particularly interested in picking up day one.
Very true.
As the mug punter here with the pre-order in the bag, not bragging, but I've got the pre-order in the bag, and it was like I was waiting on something to like, right, the previews are going to come out and it's going to be shit, but it's all been glowing. I'm like, good, that's exactly what I want. But for me, I think the one big thing, I mean, we come back to the point of this podcast, I suppose, and it is around the gamer families out there. People like you and I, but maybe not like you and I, people who are not in the hardcore, I would say, the non-saddles out there who have dipped a toe in gaming. They've got a PlayStation 5, they might be gathering dust every now and then, the kids are playing it. Then you add in the Nintendo Switch 2, you've got a kid there, aged between, I don't know, less than a teenager, a kid. So they're going to be interested in the Switch 2, let's face it. They've got things like Fortnite coming to it day one, which is a masterstroke, so they can play it. And it was like, if you look back at the PS5 launch, we've talked about it before, it was like, oh, why are these adults buying the PS5? That's for kids. And it's like, get up, you. I've got one. And it'll be the exact same thing with the Switch 2 this Christmas. It'll be the must-have thing. All the kids will want it. But then you look at the price of games, and I know you could do like the game rental share and all the rest of that. You might buy one. Some people might buy two, if they're that way inclined, because you do whatever what's best for your family. As we've always said, it's your money. You spend it wisely. There's absolutely no judgment. But I think the double dipping aspect of it, buying for you and the kids, it might price some out. Out, and that's a real impact. And that's always going to be there. It's not just exclusive to now that, early adopter prices will, of course, rule some people out of the market, and you have to wait till it gets to maturity stages before people start investing. But I even wonder if it's going to start to put a couple of those potential early adopters off, because like, I'm not sure about that. I think I'll hold off, because I've seen a lot of people on Blue Sky kind of taking that approach, which is like, I'm going to wait till Christmas, I'm going to wait till next year, and absolutely, you have to make that purchase decision and be good with that. And I feel like there's something there that's just making them just be like, I'm not really too sure. The Waynes can wait. I'll just write a number 2 on the Switch and just kid them on for 6 months. You know what I mean? I'll paint the Joy-Cons black. We'll never notice the difference.
Just attach a couple of magnets to the bottom, mate.
Aye, exactly.
On a Logitech mouse. There you go. Honestly, I don't even know. Like, I said to you yesterday, and it's always the chat that we have after anything like this gets announced or a new game gets announced, because I'm always immediately like, I'm not buying it, and then always end up falling and buying it. But I genuinely do think that this is one of these situations where I have no interest in this like at all. Even looking at Mario and stuff like that, like I think the fact that it's free roam and stuff is great, but is that going to be something that I want to go and shell £500 out?
Can I please invite our listeners just to go back and listen to the PlayStation 5 Pro announcement?
I mean, you're correct. You're 100% correct on it, and yeah, but that all came together very quickly in terms of the financials and the way things sold. So there was reason for it. However, I've not got a console library to sell, and I've not got the expendable cash to go with buying a console in the middle of summer. Like, it's just not something that I'm going to be able to do or want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think the library of games isn't there. Like, you're talking about, all the third party titles coming to it, which is fantastic for people, but it's fantastic for people who the Switch might be their primary console.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not playing Elden Ring on a Switch. Like, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to do that.
Yet.
I don't want to play Street Fighter on a Joy-Con. Like, I don't want to yet. But like, you're buying a Switch for the experiences that Nintendo give you. Like, if you were telling me, they remade Super Mario Brothers 3, I'd be like, right, hold on now.
Here we go.
Hold on.
Here we go.
But I said this yesterday, and for people who haven't listened to, the Pixel React show, the best game in that whole showcase for me yesterday was Soul Calibur 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I could go and buy that for a tenner off eBay and play it at home. just like, it's just ridiculous. But for the parents out there that are to and fro about whether or not it's something to consider, because sometimes you don't have a choice. Like, kids are hard, and it's like, my daughter has wanted a fucking Tamagotchi for weeks.
Yes.
Like, and I'm talking weeks, and she got it, and I hate the thing. I hate it so much because it's just noisy, and I'm the one that looks after it most of the time.
You're trying to kill it,
but I'm trying to make it shit itself and all that. But you end up just giving in. Like, sometimes, and you want them to have these things. Like, with the best will in the world, like, parents are stupid sometimes. Like, I'm stupid sometimes. I'll buy something I can't necessarily afford for the 5 minutes of recognition it gets me with my daughter, because those are the moments that I live for, But
the in-house cred and all that.
It's true. Like, it's true though. Like, dad is the, dad is the soup of the day, whereas mum is like fillet steak. You know what I mean? Like, she wants the fillet steak, but it's a tough decision, and it's a tough call for any parent. It's the same conversation that we had with the PlayStation 5 Pro, but there's been less said about it because it's Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, see, if you're bang on there. I think unless you're facing that considerable pressure, I mean, obviously I'm buying that because I'm interested, but I also do genuinely feel like a duty on the podcast to at least have that, to give some verdicts on it and report back. But it's not going to really be anything shocking. I'm expecting a pretty decent upgrade, but I'm also like, you know what? If somebody came to me and asked me what should I buy, it's like, right, well, if you've got the money there, obviously go get the Switch 2 because it's got that level of backwards compatibility. But if you've just invested in a Switch, Chris, you've got one of the best back catalogs of all time there.
Mm-hmm.
And for the kid, even like a Switch Lite, like the amount of times I've hovered, I'm like, I'm just going to get a Switch Lite for the wee man. But now he's going to inherit the OG Switch. But I'm going to do that in a way that I could get to make a big deal of it. I've still got the original box and all that, so it's like, even though he has his hands on it and stuff, I want to still make it feel like a moment for him. And there's a strategy behind that, because it's like, right, we know the games will still work on the Switch 2, and so if he breaks it, which he probably will, I need to teach myself, A, not to lose the rag, but B, is to try and teach him the value of something and to look after it. Which is really difficult. He's turning 5 in May. But it's like, I've got to make sure that he understands this, and I give him the chance to. And if he's anything like me, he will look after it. that the jury's still out on that. He's like me in a lot of other ways, but with that, he's got my clumsiness. But when it comes to tech and all that, man, goddamn. But I think he's interested in it. In fact, since I've moved into the house, I've still to set up the dock on the Switch. So I've just been charging it with like USB-C. Because I can't be bothered putting the dock in, because I know the Switch 2 is in the horizon. But yeah, you're right. There is going to be parents under considerable pressure. I think with older kids this Christmas, I'll keep you updated. Scott will too when he buys his, and we'll just let you know whether it's worth the price. What I would say, Scott, to move on quickly here, is that there's two more points here I want to cover on this main topic. But the first one is so say new games, right? They're 75 quid with Nintendo. PlayStation are rubbing their hands like that guy in the meme in the yellow suit jacket. It's like, fuck it, we're doing 80 quid. Are we going to be entering a backlog era for the majority of gamers, in the sense that, is this the era of the log now, Scott? Is it the era of the log?
I mean, embrace the log. We're here for it. I don't know. I'd hope so. I think that the backlogs need to be tackled, especially my own backlog. However, I think this is going to spell more of a boom, and I know there's been a massive boom in sort of indie gaming in the last 10 years, but I think this is going to be the signal for indie games just to take over now. Like, people are not going to want to spend all that money on these titles from Nintendo, but they might want to spend less on like a Hades 2 or the spiritual successor to Hades 2, Witchbrook. I think will do fucking big numbers and stuff like that on it as well. But I think this just will be the era of indie titles. I think it's just going to see an explosion of these games. Like, you see it with the Steam Deck all the time. Like, people are playing indie games left, right, and center. But I hope so. I mean, I hope people use their backlog more often. But I just do think that it's going to just give more of a credence to people using sort of indie games and stuff like that as well.
What if it has the inverse effect, where people actually, they're more discerning with their purchases? So say the game prices do go up, or we just look at the Switch 2 as an example, and they're actually like, do you know what? Yes, I could get 3 indie games, but instead I'm just going to hold back and just get this one big game that will keep me going for ages, and actually has a negative impact on indie developers.
It's a good point.
It
is a good point.
Casual gamer mindset.
Yeah. I think that, as a casual gamer mindset, but I think there's also been an onus on the actual direct to give indies their own time and place.
Yeah, which is great.
And the Switch, I mean, for me especially, it's been the place where I've learned more about indie titles than anywhere else. So
yeah,
I hope the Switch 2 continues that. I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to buy the games that they want to fucking buy. Like, I know, and to do a whole podcast on this whole topic, to then basically hit out with that an hour in, but gamers are going to buy whatever they want to fucking buy, because we're stupid and we follow the same trends as everyone else. There's FOMO, all that sort of bullshit. But I think that the way that the economical situation, the world, everything else looks like at the moment, we have to be wiser with the decisions and the purchases that we make. Otherwise, we're going to end up in the video game equivalent of the movie The Big Short, where Steve Carell fucking loses his mind. So it's a really tough one. But I think that I don't know. That's the thing with it. It's you're trying to get me to predict.
Oh, it's a
the impossible, because it's just
a fun punditry. That's all it is. I wouldn't hold you to it unless we make a Guinness bet, but I wouldn't hold you to it.
Aye, it's
being evil.
Yeah.
I'm deliberately leading you down a wee path here, Scott, to get to the next point.
Lead me there. Take me on the road.
So as I mentioned, like, so casual. We've got to think about the casual gamers objectively. Like, they're not like mug punters like you and I. So they will be probably a little more discerning and also not buying games as often. But there is this watershed moment to come, which pre all the Switch 2 Direct stuff, analysts were projecting that this was going to be the boom that the industry needed. And that, of course, is just a little known game called Grand Theft Auto 6. But now more than ever, because I remember, I think I said it in the podcast, like, there's no chance to release that for more than $69.99. And now I am absolutely like patting my chance, thinking they're absolutely going to drop this at a higher RRP. They've been talked that it could be the first ever $100 game. Are we now staring down the barrel of this becoming a reality? I mean, if you look at the different prices for Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, do publishers, is the gates now open now for publishers to look at a different open pricing model? Is it something that they're thinking, you know what, Nintendo's doing it and they know a thing or two about the old video games? Let's go, lads. Let's just chance it. What are they going to do? Because if they know the demand's there, if they know that the pedigree and the game series is there, such as Mario Kart, you've got Grand Theft Auto 6, the most anticipated game of all time, commercially, casually, hardcorely. Then what does it look like? Do you think this is what the realistic possibility now? Has your opinion changed on that?
No. To be honest with you, I think it's a sad reality that as pundits and as as purveyors of gaming podcasts and media, that it's become almost sacrilege to suggest anything less than £100 for Grand Theft Auto 6.
Mm-hmm. They manifested it.
Ridiculous. I was talking about the same thing with my wife earlier on, just trying to explain what was going on with the Switch, and she couldn't believe that there was even a consideration that Grand Theft Auto 6 could be anything more than what we pay for games at the moment. But my justification was, it's Grand Theft Auto. Do you know what I mean? Like, they could charge whatever they wanted for it and people would fucking pay for it. So I think it's just going to be on a game by game basis. I'd love to know the rationale. And this kind of it lingers on the same point, so bear with me here. But I'd love to know the rationale which causes Mario Kart to be priced more than a Donkey Kong game. Like, is that going to happen down the line? Like, is Metroid Prime going to be less?
Yeah.
Is the next Super Mario game going to be higher?
Yep.
How does Zelda then fare on that? Like,
be higher.
What is the hierarchy? I'm just saying, like, if Mario Kart's going to be £79, say, right, is the next Zelda game going to be £79, or is it going to be £75, £70? Like, are they doing it on a score basis? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do they make this decision based on that?
Well,
but
I think they're just simply going by they're simply going by the attach rate on it. Zelda, interestingly enough, wasn't one that had a massive attach rate, believe it or not, prior to the likes of like Breath of the Wild, where it really started to go up. I mean, let's take a pause here to look at it. So, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, right? The reason why that's got higher prices when you look at how many that's sold since 2017, 67.3 million copies sold of that game. Animal Crossing, 47 million. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, 35 million. Breath of the Wild sold 32 million copies. That's unheard of. Super Mario Odyssey, 29 million copies. Then you've got like Pokemon Sword and Shield with 26 million. Pokemon Scarlet Violet also with 26 million. Tears of the Kingdom sold 21 million copies. And then you've got the other ones like Super Mario Party with 21 million copies. And then the likes of Super Mario Brothers U with 18. I could go further down the list, but these are big ass numbers. That's what they're banking on. Whereas I ain't seen anything like Metroid Dread on there. Metroid's never been a system seller for them anyway.
It almost, and this is just me talking, right? Because I know that Metroid fans and Donkey Kong fans will completely disagree with me, but it sort of just shows you how they view those titles.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Mario Kart is more important, and evidently so, but like, Mario Kart is more important, therefore costs more.
Put it this way, right? Stardew Valley sold almost double of what Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze did on the Switch. So Stardew Valley sold 7.9 million and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze sold 4.62.
I'm just 7 million of those.
Exactly. I mean, it is crazy. There's games that you're thinking, in my head, I'm like, ugh, doesn't seem like a big deal. If they announced Splatoon 3, 13.6 million copies of Splatoon 2 had sold. 11 million of Splatoon 3. I meant to say Splatoon 4, sorry.
Splatoon 4, aye.
If they had announced that, but that is sold like, tens more. And even on the list here, I found that Metroid Dread 3 million copies. So that's to answer all your questions is yes. Like they will look at it as what has the biggest potential, and that's why people will be thinking, why didn't they do Mario Odyssey or Mario Odyssey 2 instead of Mario Kart? Because Mario Kart sold more than double the amount of copies as what that has.
Yeah.
And
it makes
it's
sense.
smart.
It does make sense, and
Smart.
it's smart, yeah. And especially to launch a console with a Mario Kart is, as the family, family title.
Yeah.
It makes more sense, but yeah. But I think that's the same thing with Grand Theft Auto, though, is that if it was any other game, then you'd be sort of thinking, like, you know what? Like if they announced The Last of Us Part 3 and they said, look, this is going to be the next $100 title from PlayStation, we would all be like, is it? Fuck. Shut up, Neil Druckmann. Go and sit down. But with Grand Theft Auto, like Rockstar just make their own rules on this, so you just have to fucking take your medicine, don't you?
If you look back at Grand Theft Auto 5, right, and I've got the stats here, in its first 24 hours, that sold between 10 to 12 million copies. Grand Theft Auto 5. That was way back in 2013. As of November last year, 2024, it has sold over 200 million copies worldwide across 3 generations of PlayStation, Xbox.
I was
PC.
honestly, I was surprised when I ever saw it yesterday.
Do you know what? It still could happen unless they're going to do something like a GTA 6 port in like 3 years' time. That's like after they get the PC port done, they might do something like there's a Switch 2 edition coming. I could see that potentially happening over about 10 cartridges. But yeah, I think that there's potential there now. I really would like to keep the faith that, you know what, they're going to see sense because I think they realise they're successful at a certain price point. If you make that too premium a price point, and I come back to this example to close on Hollywood with movies, we often see it bandied about. You know, this film cost 300 million. This one cost 400 million. Most of that's marketing cost, right? But whenever you go to the cinema, price the ticket's still the same, regardless of how much the film costs. I could go see a giant MCU film that costs $300 million and pay 15 quid to go in and see it at Cineworld. Or I could go see an indie film that costs $6 million to make, and I'm still paying the same 15 million, or 15 quid, 15 million, Christ, 15 quid to get in and see it. The same thing is here. What you started to see the last decade when cinema prices were going up and up and up, streaming prices or streaming services and that started to eat their lunch. Now you're starting to see cinema chains collapse as a result, and they can't keep up. Most of the revenue is in the add-ons in a cinema anyway, but they couldn't justify the high cost of just getting your foot in the door. And games have been exploring that. It's like, right, we get the foot in the door, like a cinema, pay your ticket price, you buy the game. Let's get the markup with the real money, the real profit is. So it's the popcorn, the sweets, but with inside the game, it's the microtransactions, the cosmetics, the skins. You see where I'm going? Excuse me for a second.
Yeah. Oh, he's coughing. He's coughing, man. Oh, he's still coughing. Oh my god, I need to vamp. Oh my god, I actually do need to vamp. I was kidding on. Famous vamps. Vamp from Metal Gear Solid 2.
That is a very famous vamp. Damn,
the only vamp I know.
I've been fine all day until we start doing this, but yeah, you're talking about like the Trojan horse to try and make money, and I think the same thing that you saw happen there, which is the entertainment industry. You're going to see it happen in games. Like people will vote with their wallets if it goes too high.
But it just, yeah, it just affects the people who don't, they don't care about the reason why. Like they just look at it and go, "Oh fuck!" Like
you'll always get them, but they're the very thinnest slice of the wedge. Put it that way.
Yeah,
you'll always get them. I do think that there is some form of reset needed. The industry is just going through a very, very tough time. Both the people that make it and the customers of that now are starting to feel it as well. But that then it's a full circle effect that will then start to impact the makers of it twofold. And you're going to start to see even more closures and all the rest of it. They take less risks because they were chasing that trend that was short-lived, the boom of gaming that you saw during the COVID era. But now it's not there anymore. Back to reality. Man, I'd love it if we went in lockdown again tomorrow so I can sit in my house and play games all day. But just an artificial one. But yeah, it's very, very interesting. But I would be very intrigued to hear what our listeners think of it. What is it from your guys' perspective? Would it impact how many games you buy in a year if they were to go up by, say, £5 to £10 per game? Do you feel that a subscription model would be more appealing if that was the case? Or do you think that everything is just going to stay the same, or it's not going to have any impact on you at all? I would be
It's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine.
All right in the night.
Nothing's going to matter. It's all going to be great.
For Grand Theft Auto. I'm paying £300. That's what they're going to say.
I'll buy 3 of them, man. I'll just buy 3 of them and a Rockstar Plus account and some shark cards. Yeah.
God, you just reminded me of Rockstar GTA Plus. Jesus.
Yeah, it's a fucking nightmare.
Oh,
I tell you what, I'll say this, and this is my last point on this fucking nonsense before we do this, is that we all have to embrace it and we all have to enjoy it. But I've been saying it, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. You have to embrace the log. The log is there.
The log is everything.
It is the year of the log.
The log is
It's going to become the decade of the log, and then it's going to become the century of the log.
Yes.
Because my backlog is so full. Fullest. I'm full of logs here, so I'm ready to drop some.
Honestly, there is no shortage of fantastic games you've still to play. That's really it. And that's the same for all of us. There's always your next favourite game isn't one that's just coming out, it's already came out in a lot of cases.
It's already been out.
So,
yeah. Cyberpunk 2077 is fucking is evidence of that. Yep. That's one for Adam, I'd say. If you wanted to play something, that might be something that he would enjoy.
Very good shout, actually, yeah. Particularly in that Portal. It looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. It does look fantastic. I could
attest to that. It means you don't have to play it in front of your wife and romance Panam in secret.
Well, if he does do that, please let us know, Adam, because it's a great old time. Great old time. And then once you do that, do what Scott does and then play The Witcher. Yeah. So I think then we should move on swiftly. Before we do, actually, I'm going to just give a little more cheerful note. It feels like that cost of gaming stuff is a bit serious for us, though.
Yeah.
But we have to talk about it, discourse and all that pish. But yeah, I've got a coaster on my table here that I totally forgot that I had, and it's just of Freddie Mercury singing, and it has the caption, "I want to drink tea." So there you go. That's something that's on my desk, and I just sit and sing that every day because I do. I want to drink tea. But yeah,
I want to drink.
I think it's time for us to move on. So of course that means that it's time for the Pixel Pick Showdown, where each week we each pick a game from our chosen theme and decide which one deserves to live on the hallowed Pixel Picks list, which is our definitive list of the best games we recommend and pass on to the next generation of gamers. Now, last week's theme was actually a top 50 showdown, so you can go check that out on Spotify to find out who came out on top in the first 50 entries in that hallowed list. This week's showdown, we're going to be debating which best Nintendo Switch game we think should feature on the Pixel Picks list. Now, it does have to be a Nintendo Switch exclusive, Scott, so Hades 2, I'm afraid, is out of the question. And this is now the first of our next 50 to kind of share out that top 100. The genres and the types of games are going to get more obscure in this half of the Pixel Picks list, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
You're going to enjoy it.
Now, I should also add, for those unfamiliar, we can't pick the same game twice. So it means the likes of Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they're all off the table because they're already on the list.
I know.
So
it's been a tough old time trying to figure out which game I want to choose.
I think I know what you've picked. As always, I would say last week's winner goes last, but there's a way to decide that. And I'm not going to say which game came out on top. But the game that did come out on top of the top 50 showdown, I believe you picked that one, Scott. So, yeah.
Indeed.
I think you should go last.
First, then.
Yeah. Okay.
You go first then. Go for it. You go first then.
Okay, I will. So, I have to do my honourable mention because I think it's a game that you'll pick for your pick, and I can't fight against it. But I think this is purely because of the reputation that it has, even though it's not a game that I enjoy myself. The honourable mention, I think, will be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Just because the impact, the legacy that it achieved. I'm not a Smash Brothers fan though, so it's weird to pick a game that I'm not a fan of. But I'm here to win, so that's why it's on there as the honourable mention. So that said, my pick this week is going to be The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Why? Because I've run out of other Switch games to pick on it, to be frank, and that was the best of the rest. But in all seriousness, I do have a good reason for it though. I have a good reason. I've seen the impact that it has and the magic that it brings to the children, because I believe the children are our future, Scott.
Oh, he's done it. He's done it. I hate it.
Teach him well. So I think I've played this with my son many times, and that's what sparked his interest in The Legend of Zelda. No, it's not been Breath of the Wild, it's not been anything else. It's been Link's Awakening. He likes to play that. He might be terrible at it, but he loves to play it. And he's since then likes to play being Link in the back garden with his Master Sword and his Hylian Shield. And it's fantastic to see. We usually sit and play all the time, each other with that sword and shield. And I just parry him all day. Like, go and hit me with the sword and I just parry him. It's great. But no, the game itself is fantastic. It's a wonderful remake. It does have some performance issues, but it's something I'm intrigued to play again with those performance enhancements on the Switch 2 edition, which I believe will be one of the free ones. But yeah, that's my pick this week, Scott. Short and sweet from me for once. So I hand over to yourself.
Hand over to my fine self. Mm-hmm. So it's funny you should say that your honourable mention is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because I'd have to agree that, it is the quintessential Smash Brothers game.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone is there.
Yeah.
The only person that isn't there is, Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, which is a damn crying shame. But we've managed to get a fighting game where I could literally be Sonic and you could go Sephiroth, and that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Or Kazuya Mishima's in this game, Terry Bogard is in this game. It would honestly be quicker to tell you who isn't in this game.
In the game.
It is great. Like, for the modes that you get, the sort of the board mode and the sort of the daft other modes that you get in it as well. Like, it's great. The biggest issue that it has is it's online. Like, it's the same thing with Nintendo, is that they do everything right and then one thing just fucks them, and it's always that. The online for Smash Bros. Ultimate is dross. Otherwise, it would be the biggest thing in fighting games since Street Fighter 2. But no, it wasn't my choice for this week, because I was looking at the list and there's a big gaping hole in there.
Okay, I'm shocked.
There's a gaping hole that I'm shocked that you haven't filled. It's a hole that you haven't filled, but you've almost filled it.
Right.
Almost.
Unsuccessful. Okay.
Unsuccessfully filled this gap, because the game that I picked for this week in terms of the best Switch game is a Legend of Zelda title.
Oh, there you go.
And it's Breath of the Wild.
I'm pretty sure that's on the list, isn't it?
It's absolutely not on the list. Tears of the Kingdom is on the list, but Breath of the Wild is not.
Do you know the reason why I didn't pick it? It's because I thought you'd have
Tears of the Kingdom.
The Tears of the Kingdom's on it. You'd be like, but that's a better game.
It is a better game, and I'll 100% tell you that. But we picked it for best Zelda game, and I think it is the best Zelda game in terms of it portrays Zelda in a better way. However, when I think of the Nintendo Switch, I think of a few games. I think of Super Mario Odyssey. I think of Mario Kart 8, and I do think of Breath of the Wild. I think that it kind of established the Switch as a force to be reckoned with in terms of bringing back Zelda in this fashion. It feels like we talk about impactful games, like BAFTA released a list of the most a list today about the most influential game, which Shenmue won. For shame. But aye, Kingdom
Jesus
Come
Christ.
Deliverance was like number 4 or something like that. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which
Shenmue.
released last year.
That couldn't influence
Shenmue.
anything if it was a drug. Jesus Christ. Terrible
You
game.
say that, you do say that, but the influence is felt elsewhere.
Oh,
But
terrible. Absolutely sorry. It's ganting. I'm outraged. You've outraged me, sir.
It's true, 100% true. But I think that what Breath of the Wild has done for the Zelda series is it's revitalized it. You know, this was what Zelda needed, and the hype and the excitement leading up to that game was like nothing else.
Mhm.
And then it dropped and ran terribly, but it was still great. You know, for what you played of it. Still, it's a shock me coming with this because I've never finished it. I think I got 2 out of the 3 or 4 beast things.
Yeah.
I got 2 out of the 4 of them, and then I just couldn't be asked anymore because I'm lazy. But it just feels like this is a complete slam dunk, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild is the best Switch game.
I can't
Easy.
argue it. That's it. Open and shut case. Well done to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. You are, of course, the best Nintendo Switch game for all the reasons that Scott just listed there. I don't have anything to add. It was perfection.
There's moblins in it.
There is moblins. And you should finish it because it's wonderful. It really is. Even though it's not a game where it's like, you don't even have to finish it to really get the full experience. You just have to just go and engage with it somehow. That's what's so good about it. But it is definitely worth finishing. Like it's utterly fantastic at the end of that game. You'd love it. But yeah, that's the first the entry 51 into the list. Christ, it's building up fast. I look forward to see what we've got lined up. Now, before we wrap things up, I should also add we've done a wee bit of jiggery pokery in the background here in terms of the setup of the podcast. So things I've checked today, they're still coming through as normal. But if there is some type of if you're on a platform where you usually get it and you're not seeing it appear, please do let us know. But you should still be able to get things each and every Friday on Spotify and that, as we're going to be shaking things up in a big way as we approach. In fact, has it been a year already? Yeah, we're coming up on a year. And
coming up on a year, aye.
Yeah, this is technically April is our year anniversary month. Anyway, so yeah, and we've got a lot of exciting things to come this month. So please stay tuned. And all I will say is, you won't believe it. That's all I'll say. And on that ominous note, what I will say is that it does bring us to the end of this week's podcast. So thank you once again for joining us. And if you like what you hear and you enjoyed the podcast, leave us a wee 5-star review. It helps us out. And of course, that makes a massive difference. So Scott, that means it's test time. Where can people find you online if they wish to engage with you?
I am on Blue Sky at lamberman.bsky.social. Bitch.
There you go.
I kind of fell out of Blue Sky this week.
Oh, what's it done to you?
I felt I was enjoying it, and I like some of the stuff that I see, but also I see a lot of pish on there, like a lot of pish,
as you should,
and a lot of pish from people that from people that I don't necessarily follow or agree with. So I went through a wee bit of a cleanse, and it feels good. Well, it feels good to have a timeline manufactured to my own tastes and needs, which is nice.
That's what you should do. What you see is having an impact on you one way or another. So you got to make sure that if you create the timeline, what I would say is, I think there has been a bit of shift on it this week. But obviously, I think there's been a lot more political discourse entering the timeline, I've noticed, than usual. But I'm probably the polar opposite. I'm starting to see that almost toxic positivity element of it kind of shift away, and that people are actually started to talk.
People are so miserable and sad now.
I mean, I think what I'm liking is that they're not afraid to talk about it and then move back on to things that they like talking about, that's very normal. Life's about balance, Scott. It's about balance. Now, if you need some of that balance, you can of course find me on Blue Sky at carmelite.bsky.social, where I have written out and deleted a big, massive soapbox kind of post of Skeets on Blue Sky today about the sweet potato maniac. So yeah, who knows? Will I post it there? You'll have to follow me to find out. And of course, thank you to our producer.
Release the sweet potato cut.
I shall. I shall, but massive thank you to our producer and music man, the talented and very handsome Mr. Sean Murray. Go show him some love and check out his work on Instagram at Barehand Designs and barehanddesigns.com. He has been putting in the hours to get these podcasts out to you guys, so please show him some big nasty love and go follow him on there. That would mean the world. And of course, you can listen to the next episode on all major podcast platforms and follow us on Blue Sky at pixelparents.bsky.social. And of course, write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com, just like Adam did this week. Let us know your thoughts, let us know what you're playing, and everything in between. Would you have your tea? Anything like that. We'd be quite happy just to discuss that on the show.
Don't tell me that, Ad. Don't tell me that.
No, like that.
Tell Liam that.
Tell me that. I'm interested in the cooking. Tell me what you had for your tea. But of course, until next time, please stay safe, stay sane, and thanks for listening.
Sweet potatoes.